Hello students, welcome to the first session of chapter number 22 of your first PUC NCERT, that is Chemical Coordination and Integration. So last session we did discuss regarding the chemical signals being transferred to the nervous system. Now here we will be discussing regarding the chemical substances which are necessary for coordination in case of our body. When it comes to rapid signals which should be transferred throughout the body, that is carried out by the nervous system, but these are not long lasting, these are for a few seconds or minutes. But for long lasting transfer of chemicals, it is necessary that we require some different type of system which we call endocrine system. So in this endocrine system, first we should know how the endocrine system works. So what is an endocrine system? When it comes to an endocrine system or a gland, endocrine system or glands are also termed ductless glands. Ductless glands means if this is a cell, it produces certain secretions. These secretions are transferred into gland before it is released into the blood. So this type of system is called exocrine system. If the cell secretions are directly released into the blood without any glands, those are called endocrine glands. That means the cell secretions are directly released into the blood without any gland are termed endocrine glands. That is why they are termed ductless glands. Those glands whose secretion are transferred into glands and then into blood, those are called exocrine glands. So ductless glands are called endocrine glands. The secretions what are released by the cells, these are called hormones. When it comes to hormones, hormones are chemicals which are non-nutritive in function. So these are chemicals non-nutritive intercellular messengers which are produced in traces amount. Hormones are non-nutritive chemical substances which are called intercellular messengers which are released in traces amount from the endocrine glands. So these hormones are the chemical signals what is released from the endocrine glands or what is released from the cells. When it comes to different types of endocrine glands present in our body, there are almost 10 different types of endocrine glands. Those will be hypothalamus, pituitary, pineal, thyroid, parathyroid, thymus, adrenal, pancreas, testes, and 10th one is ovary. These are the 10 different types of endocrine glands which are present in our body. So that will include hypothalamus, pituitary, pineal, thyroid, parathyroid, thymus, adrenal, pancreas, testes as well as ovary. So these 10 glands help in producing different types of secretion which we call hormones, and these hormones are released which reach the target organs or cells so that a particular function is carried out. Now we will have to study about each of the endocrine glands as well as the hormones released by each of them, their location in detail. So first we will start with hypothalamus. Hypothalamus, it is present at the base of diencephalon and its main function is to control the release or inhibition of pituitary hormones. That means hypothalamus directly controls the pituitary hormones from being released or being inhibited. Here in hypothalamus there are two different types of hormones produced. One is releasing hormone, another is inhibiting hormone. Releasing hormone helps in secretion of pituitary hormones. It helps in secretion of pituitary hormones, whereas inhibiting hormone inhibits pituitary hormones. It helps in inhibiting the release of pituitary hormones. So here hypothalamus, it is present at the base of the diencephalon. Its function is to control the pituitary gland from either releasing hormones or inhibiting hormones. There are two types of hormones produced by hypothalamus, that is releasing hormone. These help in secretion of the pituitary hormones, whereas inhibiting hormone inhibits the release of pituitary hormones. When it comes to this particular hormones or the examples for this releasing and inhibiting hormone, for releasing hormone we can give an example of gonadotropin, releasing hormone, which can be written gonadotropin releasing hormone reaches the pituitary gland through the nerve. That is, once the hormone is released from the hypothalamus, they pass into the axon of nervous system. They are released from the nerve endings and then reach the anterior pituitary, which produces a hormone called gonadotropin. So pituitary alli gonadotropin ಅನ್ನುವಂಥ ಒಂದು ಹಾರ್ಮೋನ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಅದು ರಿಲೀಸ್ ಆಗಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಹೈಪೋಥಲಾಮಸ್ ಇಂದ ಈ ಗೊಂನಾಡೋಟ್ರೋಪಿನ್ ರಿಲೀಸಿಂಗ್ ಹಾರ್ಮೋನ್ಗಳು ಪ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಆಗಿರಬೇಕು. ಈ ಹಾರ್ಮೋನ್ಗಳು ನರ್ವಸ್ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್ನ ಅಥವಾ ನ್ಯೂರಾನ್ನ ಆಕ್ಸಾನ್ ಮುಖಾಂತರ ನರ್ವ್ ಎಂಡಿಂಗ್ ಮುಖಾಂತರ ಆಂಟೀರಿಯರ್ ಪಿಟ್ಯುಟರಿಯನ್ನು ರೀಚ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ದೆನ್ ಓನ್ಲಿ ದ ಪಿಟ್ಯುಟರಿ ವಿಲ್ ಬಿ ಏಬಲ್ ಟು ರಿಲೀಸ್ ದ gonadotropin hormone. So that is how they normally help in releasing the secretion of pituitary gland. Next is example for inhibiting hormone. The example will be somatostatin. Somatostatin is released from the hypothalamus to inhibit the development or release of growth hormones. So somatostatin ಅನ್ನುವಂತಹ inhibitory hormone ಪ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಆಗುವಂಥದ್ದು ಹೈಪೋಥಲಾಮಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ. ಈ ಹೈಪೋಥಲಾಮಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಪ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಆಗಿರುವಂತಹ ಸೊಮ್ಯಾಟೋಸ್ಟಾಟಿನ್ ಪಿಟ್ಯುಟರಿ ಗ್ಲ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಅನ್ನು ರೀಚ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ವಿಚ್ ಪ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸಸ್ ದ ಗ್ರೋತ್ ಹಾರ್ಮೋನ್. ಈ ಸೊಮ್ಯಾಟೋಸ್ಟಾಟಿನ್ ಕೂಡ ಆಕ್ಸಾನ್ ಮುಖಾಂತರ ನರ್ವ್ ಎಂಡಿಂಗ್ ಮುಖಾಂತರ ಆಂಟೀರಿಯರ್ ಪಿಟ್ಯುಟರಿಯನ್ನು ರೀಚ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ದಸ್ ಇನ್ಹಿಬಿಟ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಸ್ಟಾಪ್ಸ್ ದ ರಿಲೀಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಗ್ರೋತ್ ಹಾರ್ಮೋನ್ ಫ್ರಮ್ ದ ಪಿಟ್ಯುಟರಿ. ಸೊ ಇವಾಗ gonadotropin ಗ್ರೋತ್ ಹಾರ್ಮೋನ್ ಇದು ಎರಡು ಕೂಡ ಪಿಟ್ಯುಟರಿ ಅಥವಾ ಆಂಟೀರಿಯರ್ ಪಿಟ್ಯುಟರಿಯಿಂದ ರಿಲೀಸ್ ಆಗುವಂಥ ಹಾರ್ಮೋನ್. ಸೊ ಇದು ರಿಲೀಸ್ ಆಗಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ gonadotropin ರಿಲೀಸಿಂಗ್ ಹಾರ್ಮೋನ್ ಹೈಪೋಥಲಾಮಸ್ ಇಂದ ಪಿಟ್ಯುಟರಿಗೆ ರೀಚ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಗ್ರೋತ್ ಹಾರ್ಮೋನ್ ರಿಲೀಸ್ ಸ್ಟಾಪ್ ಆಗಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಸೊಮ್ಯಾಟೋಸ್ಟಾಟಿನ್ ಹೈಪೋಥಲಾಮಸ್ ಇಂದ ಆಂಟೀರಿಯರ್ ಪಿಟ್ಯುಟರಿಗೆ ರೀಚ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಇದೆರಡೂ ಕೂಡ ರೀಚ್ ಆಗುವಂತಹ ಪ್ರೋಸೆಸ್ ಆರ್ ವೇ ಯಾವುದು ಅಂತ ಕೇಳಿದ್ರೆ that will be through the nervous system. They get transferred into the axon, they are transferred into the axon terminal and then they reach the anterior pituitary. When it comes to the control of posterior pituitary, the neural regulation of hypothalamus does it directly. So posterior pituitary can be directly controlled by the help of neural regulation of hypothalamus, where a nervous system axon, neural terminal or nerve terminal is necessary for controlling the activity of anterior pituitary. So once again to discuss, hypothalamus is present at the base of diencephalon. These normally controls the pituitary hormones. When it comes to release of hormones from the hypothalamus, it includes two different types, that is releasing hormone and inhibiting hormone. As I've already told, the hypothalamus controls the pituitary gland, where the pituitary gland hormones release is controlled by releasing hormone of hypothalamus. Inhibition of pituitary hormones is controlled by the inhibiting hormone of hypothalamus. Releasing hormone helps in secretion of pituitary hormones. Example for that will be gonadotropin releasing hormone. This gonadotropin releasing hormone released from the hypothalamus controls the release of gonadotropin hormone from the pituitary, whereas the inhibiting hormone, this inhibits the pituitary hormone. Example for this is somatostatin. Somatostatin, which is released from the hypothalamus, reaches the anterior pituitary and stops the release of growth hormone or inhibits the release of growth hormone. So, both of these hormones what I have mentioned here as examples are controlling the anterior pituitary, where the posterior pituitary is directly controlled by the neural regulation in hypothalamus. So, that is about first endocrine gland, hypothalamus. Next is we will have to study about pituitary gland. Next, when it comes to the next gland, pituitary gland. So, this pituitary gland is present within a bony structure. That bony structure is called sella turcica. This pituitary gland is present just below the hypothalamus within a bony cavity called sella turcica. So, this pituitary gland is divided into two different categories, that is adenohypophysis and one more category is neurohypophysis. Pituitary gland can be divided into two different regions or categories, that is adenohypophysis and neurohypophysis. Adenohypophysis is further divided into two different parts, that is pars distalis. It is also called anterior pituitary and another one is pars intermedia. And when it comes to neurohypophysis, it is classified into one type, that is pars nervosa, which is also called posterior pituitary. When it comes to adenohypophysis, it can be classified into two different regions, that is pars distalis, which is also called anterior pituitary, and pars intermedia. So, this pars intermedia lies very much close to the pars distalis, or it is almost merged within the pars distalis. Whereas neurohypophysis, it is classified into only one region, that is pars nervosa, which we commonly call posterior pituitary. Now, coming to the different types of hormones produced from each of the parts of pituitary gland. When it comes to pars distalis, these produce growth hormone, prolactin, thyroid stimulating hormone, adenocorticotropic hormone, follicle stimulating hormone, and luteinizing hormone. So these are the 6 different types of hormones which are produced from pars distalis. When it comes to pars intermedia, these secrete only one type of hormone, that is melanocyte stimulating hormone. And when it comes to pars nervosa, these produces 2 hormones which are actually secreted by the hypothalamus, but axonally they are transferred into the posterior pituitary. Those 2 hormones will be oxytocin and vasopressin. So that is about different types of hormones which are released from the pituitary. Before we come to know about the function of hormones of pituitary, we will just revise it once again. Pituitary gland, it is present at the base of hypothalamus within a bony structure called sella turcica. It is divided into 2 different regions or types, that is adenohypophysis and neurohypophysis. Adenohypophysis is classified into 2 main regions, that is pars distalis and pars intermedia. Pars intermedia is almost merged within the pars distalis, but they can be separated because they produce different hormones. Neurohypophysis is classified into only one category, that is pars nervosa. Here pars distalis is termed anterior pituitary and pars nervosa is termed posterior pituitary. When it comes to the anterior pituitary, they are classified into 6 different hormones, or they secrete 6 different hormones, that is growth hormone, prolactin hormone, thyroid stimulating hormone, adenocorticotropic hormone, follicle stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone. And pars intermedia produces melanocyte stimulating hormone, only one hormone, and pars nervosa produces 2 different hormones. These pars nervosa do not secrete these 2 hormones, but these 2 hormones are secreted by the hypothalamus, which reach the pituitary axonally, that is through axons. That will be oxytocin and vasopressin. Now we will have to study about the function of each hormone in detail. When it comes to growth hormone, so this growth hormone is necessary, which is released from the pituitary so that the individual can grow or develop. So if this growth hormones are not inhibited by the somatostatins of hypothalamus, then what will happen is these growth hormones will be secreted in very much higher amount, which leads to gigantism. Gigantism is a process due to increased secretion of growth hormones. The individual will have a very big height, that is up to 7 feet or 7.5 feet. So growth hormones means these are released by the pituitary, which helps in an individual growth and development. If these hormones are secreted in higher amount, it leads to a disorder called gigantism, where the height of the individual won't be controlled. Next one, if it is secreted in lesser amount, then it leads to a disorder that is called dwarfism. Dwarfism means the growth hormones are not released in required amount and the individual will be very short, maybe 3 feet to 4 feet, even if he or she is a matured person. So growth hormone when produced in higher amount leads to gigantism, when produced in lower amount leads to dwarfism. So in normal individual, the growth hormones will be produced, which is restricted until certain age. After certain age, the growth hormones will be restricted or inhibited by the release of somatostatin from the hypothalamus. That is about growth hormone. Next one is prolactin hormone. These prolactin hormone helps in secretion of milk. This prolactin hormone helps in secretion of milk in the mammary gland of a pregnant woman. So prolactin hormone helps in secretion of milk in the mammary gland of a pregnant woman. Next is thyroid stimulating hormone. This thyroid stimulating hormone controls the secretion of thyroid hormone in the thyroid gland. So, thyroid stimulating hormone released from the pituitary is transferred into the thyroid gland, which helps in release of thyroid hormones. They control the thyroid gland. Next, adrenocorticotropic hormone. They help in secretion of a steroid hormone called glucocorticoid in the adrenal gland. So, adrenocorticotropic hormone released from the pituitary reaches the adrenal gland and make sure that they release or synthesize a particular steroid hormone. These steroid hormones are in together termed glucocorticoid. The release of glucocorticoid from the adrenal gland is controlled by the adrenocorticotropic hormone. Next hormone, that is luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulating hormone. These are together called gonadotropins. The release of this gonadotropins is controlled by the hypothalamic secreting or releasing hormone, that is gonadotropin releasing hormone. Now, when it comes to the function in case of males and females, they vary in their function. When it comes to luteinizing hormone, in case of male, they help in releasing androgen from the testes. They help in releasing androgen hormone from the testes. Whereas follicle stimulating hormone, in case of male, they help in spermatogenesis. Spermatogenesis means it is production of sperms. So, the follicle stimulating hormone, it helps in spermatogenesis, that is producing of sperms, along with regulating the androgen. So, androgen is the hormone which is released from the testes, which is controlled by the luteinizing hormone. So, these luteinizing and follicle stimulating hormones are in together term gonadotropins, and in males they help in releasing androgens from the testes as well as spermatogenesis. Whereas in case of female, luteinizing hormone helps in ovulation, it helps in ovulation, formation of Graafian follicle, that is the matured follicle which ruptures and releases the ova during ovulation, and also helps in formation of corpus luteum. Next, in case of follicle stimulating hormone, this follicle stimulating hormone, in case of female, they help in growth and development of ovarian follicles. So, there will be formation of primary, secondary, tertiary and then matured follicle called Graafian follicle. Their growth and development is controlled by follicle stimulating hormone. So, that is about the function of gonadotropins in case of male as well as in case of female. So, in female, luteinizing hormone helps in ovulation, which takes place in the 14th day of 28-day menstrual cycle, and formation of a mature follicle called Graafian follicle, which releases the ova during ovulation. And after ovulation, whatever part is remained, that gets converted from Graafian follicle into corpus luteum. That is also controlled by the luteinizing hormone. Whereas follicle stimulating hormone helps in growth and development of this ovarian follicles, which will be primary, secondary, tertiary as well as the final Graafian follicle. Whereas in case of male, this luteinizing hormone, they secrete or release androgens from the testes as well as follicle stimulating hormone. They help in production of sperms, which are termed spermatogenesis. So that is about all the different types of hormones which are produced from the anterior pituitary, which we call pars distalis. Growth hormone helps in growth and development. When secreted in higher amount, leads to gigantism, and under secretion leads to dwarfism. Prolactin hormone helps in secretion of milk in the mammary gland of the pregnant women. Thyroid stimulating hormone controls the thyroid hormones which are released from the thyroid gland. Adenocorticotropic hormone, this controls adrenal gland from releasing the steroid hormone, which is termed glucocorticoid, where follicle stimulating and luteinizing hormones are combinedly called gonadotropins. These gonadotropins act in different form in male reproductive system as well as female reproductive system, where luteinizing hormone in case of male reproductive system helps in producing androgen or releasing the androgen from the testes, and follicle stimulating hormone helps in spermatogenesis, that is production of sperms. Whereas both the gonadotropins act in different form in female reproductive system. Luteinizing hormone helps in formation of Graafian follicle, ovulation and corpus luteum, whereas follicle stimulating hormone, it helps in controlling the growth and development of ovarian follicles. That is about pars distalis hormones. Next is about pars intermedia. It produces a single hormone called melanocyte stimulating hormone. This helps in maintaining the skin pigments. That is secretion of melanin pigment in the skin, which gives either light, brown or dark color. That is controlled by melanocyte stimulating hormone. Next to hormone which is released from the posterior pituitary but synthesized from the hypothalamus will be oxytocin and vasopressin. When it comes to oxytocin, oxytocin helps in contraction of uterine smooth muscles during parturition. ಮಗು ಹುಟ್ಟುವಾಗ ಯುಟಿರಸ್ ರೀಜನ್ ನ ಸ್ಮೂತ್ ಮಸಲ್ ಕಾಂಟ್ರಾಕ್ಷನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಆಕ್ಸಿಟೋಸಿನ್ ಹೆಲ್ಪ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ. ದಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಒನ್ ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್. ಸೆಕೆಂಡ್ ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ ಇಸ್ ಇಜೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಆಫ್ ಮಿಲ್ಕ್. ಇಜೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಆಫ್ ಮಿಲ್ಕ್ ಮೆಮರಿ ಗ್ಲ್ಯಾಂಡ್ಸ್ ಇಂದ ಇಜೆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗೋ ಥರ ಪ್ರೆಗ್ನೆಂಟ್ ವಿಮೆನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಈ ಆಕ್ಸಿಟೋಸಿನ್ ಹೆಲ್ಪ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ. So that is what is the function of oxytocin. It helps in contraction of the uterine muscles during childbirth and helps in ejection of milk from the mammary glands in a pregnant woman. Next one is vasopressin. Vasopressin, it helps in reabsorption of water and electrolytes in the distal convoluted tubule of kidney, so to avoid the loss of water. As it shows the function of reabsorption of water and reducing the water loss, it can also be termed antidiuretic hormone. Vasopressin is also termed antidiuretic hormone or ADH because it helps in reabsorption of water and electrolytes in the kidney and reduces the loss of water from the kidney in the form of urine. So, urine released by human beings will be highly concentrated because the water gets reabsorbed due to the presence of vasopressin hormone. So, that is about the different types of hormones which are released from the pituitary along with their function. Once again, to discuss regarding the pituitary gland. Pituitary gland, it is present at the base of hypothalamus within a bony structure called sella turcica. This pituitary is divided into two different regions, that is adenohypophysis and neurohypophysis. Adenohypophysis can be classified into two different regions, that is anterior pituitary called pars distalis and pars intermedia. This pars intermedia is almost very much close to the pars distalis or almost merged within the pars distalis. Another division, neurohypophysis, it produces the posterior pituitary. This posterior pituitary is called pars nervosa. When it comes to the pars distalis, it produces 6 different hormones, which will be growth hormone, prolactin hormone, thyroid stimulating hormone, adenocorticotropic hormone and 2 gonadotropins. When it is pars intermedia, it produces melanocyte stimulating hormone, and the pars nervosa produces oxytocin and vasopressin. Once again, to discuss the different types of functions of each of the hormone. When it comes to growth hormone helps in normal growth and development. But when it is released in higher amount or somatostatin doesn't inhibits it, it leads to formation of a disorder called gigantism, but when undersecreted it leads to dwarfism. Next hormone is prolactin hormone. This helps in secretion or production of milk in the mammary gland of a pregnant women. Thyroid stimulating hormone, this helps in release of thyroid hormones from the thyroid gland. Adenocorticotropic hormone helps in release or secretion of a steroid hormone called glucocorticoid, which is released from the adrenal gland. Follicle stimulating and luteinizing hormones are together called gonadotropins. These act in different forms in male as well as in case of female. Whereas in case of male, luteinizing hormone helps in release of androgens from the testes, whereas follicle stimulating hormone helps in release or production of sperms, which we call spermatogenesis. These both hormones act in different way in case of female reproductive system, where in female reproductive system these luteinizing hormone helps in formation of a mature follicle called Graafian follicle. They help in ovulation as well as corpus luteum is formed or controlled by the luteinizing hormone. Follicle stimulating hormone helps in development of the ovarian follicles from primary to secondary, secondary to tertiary, and then finally to a mature follicle called Graafian follicle. Next is about the melanocyte stimulating hormone, which is released from the pars intermedia. These help in controlling the skin pigmentation, that is release of melanin pigment, which gives either light, brown or dark color to the body. Next one is oxytocin and vasopressin. These are released from the pars nervosa or the posterior pituitary. Both of these hormones are not synthesized in the pituitary but are synthesized in the hypothalamus, which reaches the posterior pituitary through the axons of the hypothalamic neural regulation. This oxytocin helps in vigorous contraction of the uterus during the childbirth, that is smooth muscle contraction uterine regionally aguvantadu during childbirth. That is one function. Adre second function is they help in ejecting the milk from the mammary glands. Mammary glands in the milk ejection anna promote ಮಾಡುವಂತ process ಅನ್ನು oxytocin ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ. Next is vasopressin. Vasopressin is also called antidiuretic hormone or ADH. The function of vasopressin is to reabsorb the water and electrolyte from the distal convoluted tubule and reduce the loss of water from the urine and to release a highly concentrated urine. So that is in detail about the pituitary gland. Next, this pineal gland, it is present in the dorsal side of the brain. Pineal gland is present in the dorsal side of the brain. It secretes only one hormone, that is called melatonin. This melatonin helps in maintaining the diurnal cycle. What is a diurnal cycle or diurnal system anta helidre? It maintains the 24-hour cycle of your body. That is, it controls the sleep and wake cycle, that is called circadian rhythm. It maintains the body temperature. In case of female, it maintains the menstrual cycle. It helps in maintaining the body temperature, pigmentation as well as metabolism. So pineal gland, it is present at the dorsal side of the brain, which secretes a hormone termed melatonin. This maintains the diurnal cycle. When it comes to maintenance of diurnal cycle, it means that it controls the 24-hour cycle, and this 24-hour cycle includes the different types of cycles which are present within the body. First is the sleep and wake cycle, which is also called circadian rhythm. It maintains the body temperature, it maintains the skin pigmentation, it maintains the metabolism. It also helps in maintaining the menstrual cycle in case of female and controls the defense system. So that's about the pineal gland. We'll stop the session here. In today's session, we have discussed regarding the endocrine and exocrine glands. What are endocrine glands? Different types of endocrine glands, in which we have covered hypothalamus producing, releasing and inhibiting hormone, pituitary producing the different types of hormones from either anterior pituitary or posterior pituitary, as well as the pineal gland releasing only one hormone, that is melatonin. So in next class, we will continue with the other different types of endocrine glands. Thank you.